Hey, it's Amy Brown from The Bobby Bone Show. Join me in supporting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital for a chance to win a trip to meet Megan Maroney at the 2025 iHeart Country Festival in Austin, Texas on May 3rd, hosted by Bobby Bones. We're going to hook you up with tickets, flights, hotel, food credits, and a meet and greet with Megan Maroney. Take action now to support St. Jude and help cure childhood cancer, and you're going to be entered for a chance to win. Visit iHeartCountryTrip.com to learn more.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
Welcome to another episode of Iconic Creators. I'm your host, Baxter Colburn. I'm excited for today's episode, and I feel like I say that every episode, which is true, though. I'm excited because the reason I started this podcast was to have conversations with people that I admire, that I'm excited to talk to, that I just want to learn something from. And my guest today is someone that I've met more recently, but I would venture to say that it's become a friend already based off of how quickly we connected, our shared experiences, and our love for helping other people, businesses alike, tell their stories in a fun and unique way. She is the founder of Ola Media House. It is the amazing, the beautiful, the talented Mina George. Hello, Mina. Welcome to Iconic Creators.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled to have you. Now, I kind of talked about it briefly. You and I have only known each other for 3 months, 4 months, I think, technically, I believe is what it is. But I found myself very quickly just becoming a huge fan. One of our mutual clients and friends introduced us just over text and was like, hey, you should talk to Mina. I'm like, oh, okay, great. But the second we talked on the phone and the second I kind of watched a lot of your stuff, I was like, this is somebody, I need more of Mina in my life. I was like, she seems awesome and such a very talented creator as well. And I know that that's just been kind of a fun journey for us. But let's get a little bit of backstory. Give us a little bit of who you are, what you do. Just give us the little elevator pitch of what Ola Media House is, please.
Yeah. So like you said, I am the founder of Ola Media House. We started off as Mina George Films, and as I grew, I did a whole rebranding, but we focus on creating video content for women business owners in the Milwaukee area and beyond. We do have another branch which focuses on wedding videography also. So with those two areas of expertise, we've been really, really busy. So it's been an exciting journey to be where I started 5 years ago and be here now with the business growing. So we've been in business for about 5 years now as well.
That's amazing. I don't know if I realized that your main focus of Ola was for women business owners.
Yeah. So I think that's naturally where we have gone. Just it was kind of not planned, but that's the type of clients that I attract. And so I have always just not really, I don't obviously say no to anybody else but females, but I do attract that type of clientele. So because of
Yeah.
that, that's my area of focus. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I'm it's funny too. If most people, I would think that if they looked at the clientele that I work with is mostly females as well. It's not
Yeah.
on purpose. That's just kind of how it's happened.
Yeah.
And I'm, grateful for any client that,
Yes.
that trusts me to work with them truthfully. But it's funny how that happens sometimes, right?
Yes.
And I feel like that you work with the people you're supposed to work with, no matter who they are, right?
Exactly. And that's the direction that we've moved in, and I love it. I feel like it just has worked well with my personality and just with my business in general. Yeah.
I love that. You talked about a little bit. You talk about brands, weddings, you have events that you've covered as well. why those areas specifically? I know that some people say, "Oh, I love, weddings because I love love," right? Or whatever it might be. But why those are three kind of fun and unique areas to focus on. Why those areas?
Yeah, so I considered just focusing on one area and not the other, like just business branding and not wedding films or videography. But I feel like I can do both and I can have different branches of the business, especially since I want to expand and grow. I feel like I can have different elements. And I truly love telling that story in that type of way
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking about weddings. So I love telling their story and creating just, an 8 to 10 minute film around that. It's just so much fun to be able to get to know the couple and then just create this emotional experience behind it. And then also to hear their thoughts of when they watch it and they relive that day. So it just brings me a different type of satisfaction. It's a different type of excitement. So I love working with those that in that type of film as well.
Weddings are unique, right? Because you're being invited into somebody's day. Typically, you don't know the person, right? Like, and they found you, they've seen your work, they, have inviting you in to celebrate hopefully one of the biggest days of their life together as a couple and as a collective family. So I've always found that, and I've always told the bride and groom that to the little few of the weddings that I've shot. I'm like, thank you for letting me be here. Like, I'm honored that you picked me to help capture and celebrate your beautiful day with you.
Yes, it's exactly that. Yeah, it's an honor, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, the business side of things, obviously, branding, that's a whole different thing. That is more for the people that are trying to upgrade their websites, show social media content, right? Whatever that might be. Do you have those specific genres or those types of companies that you're like, oh my gosh, if I could do 100 of these in a month, I would love that, as opposed to, a little bit here, a little bit of there, a little bit of there.
Yeah, I love working in the beauty industry. It's
Hmm.
so maybe there's spas, maybe there's salons. Um, I think that I get it. I get what they're looking for. I have a passion for it. Obviously, I personally like health and beauty, so that's my yeah, that's the area that I love to work in. So health and
Hmm.
beauty.
Just because of your pre-existing love for that industry, even if you didn't have your business, you would just love to you're just a consumer of that stuff in general?
Yeah, totally. I am.
Okay, okay, that's always interesting to me, yeah, because there's always something, right? Like, that's a big piece for me from, like, a sports side of things, right? Like, I grew up playing soccer and football, I love doing sports videography or photography
Yes.
whenever I can, just because I have that pre-existing passion and love for it,
And
so
that's like
that
the
that makes
beauty.
sense.
Yeah, it's the beauty of being a business owner is that you get to work in an area that you absolutely love, or you should be working in an area that you absolutely love because that drives
Mhm.
business. It drives, I mean, I think everything, right? The next steps,
Yeah.
where you head, and I think you should be working in areas that you love to work in, and hopefully get good at it and improve upon your skills and that sort of thing.
I love that. I'm always curious when it comes to how people got started. I'm not sure if I remember this answer or not from when you and I had our coffee time together. How this is not an industry that typically you just wake up one day and pick,
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
Like, what was the pre-existing knowledge or pre-existing thoughts that you had about, like, why can't I try that? Let's do it.
Yeah, I feel like so I was a stay-at-home mom for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was working in the like in corporate America. I was in commercial real estate, working in that industry, and so I knew that when I became a stay-at-home mom and when I decided to work again, that I vowed never to go back into that industry. I felt like it was not for me, and
Yep.
like, to be honest, like, I wasn't good at it. I, like, just was I w didn't have passion, and I wasn't good at it. It wasn't my
Were you buying and selling of corporate real
I
estate, or
was, like,
what was your
helping,
role?
like, helping in the sales side, the corporate side. So I was working on a team, and they
Okay.
were they were in real estate, doing the sales, and I was a part of their support, and
Hmm.
yeah. And I actually was, in real estate as well as a real estate agent, and it's just I don't know, I think it's just not part of my personality, to be and I didn't have like a strong drive for it either. So I, became a stay-at-home mom, and I thought, okay, I'm not getting back into that industry again. I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit because of like influence from my family, like other business owners in my family. So I knew that I was going to do something in that area. And aside from working in corporate America, I always had these little side hustle jobs that I would do, like, on my own. Like, I would start, like I started a little Etsy business and things I would create
Mm.
and make, and so I that was always part of who I was, to be, creative and use my hands, and so I knew that it was gonna be I was gonna be doing something creative, and I was gonna own my own business. So when I
Huh.
started to my kids got old enough, when they were gonna be in school full time, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna start thinking about what I'm gonna do next." So,
Interesting.
yeah, I just started exploring, like, getting to know myself again, really. Like, who is this next who am I becoming into this next phase of my life, now that I'm not gonna be a stay-at-home mom, and how do I balance that? So I just started exploring what I like, what I was interested in. So I looked into like interior design because I was really into that for a little bit. And just started, I picked up a camera, started taking pictures of like different designs that I was making in
Oh, okay.
this. And that's where it started. Like as soon as I started taking pictures and taking video of what I was doing, I became obsessed over marketing and creating really good video content, how to use a camera. Then I started teaching myself. Then I took online courses for film school, and I went through a whole certification process. And that's when I was obsessed. Like I was not working. I was just learning for a whole year or so, and just perfecting my craft. And then after that, sorry, this is kind of long winded.
No, you're fine.
After I felt like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm doing, social media started to become more like prominent for marketing, and I saw it happening. And then COVID happened and all that stuff, and I was like, this is like what people like. I knew this was coming. Where we are now,
Yes,
how
100%.
yeah, how social media and videography are like hand in hand in marketing your business. They're one and the same now. Like I saw this coming, and I knew I wanted to get good at it. And so I've done my best to just I don't know, just to create my business around that. And I don't know, I just love it. And then I get to work with these amazing uh businesses as well. And so it's been fun. So that's in a nutshell how I got started. I do want to add one thing. To build my portfolio, I started doing a lot of free work. Like I went to companies that I loved. Like I loved their style. I loved whatever they were working on. And I said, hey, I'm trying to build my portfolio. This is what I think your business needs. And this is what direction I think they should go in with video. Can I do this for free? You can have the content
Mhm.
afterward, and it'll help me to build my portfolio. So I did that for,
Huh.
I would say, 3 to 5 businesses that I really looked up to. And once I did that, like the rest was history. Everything has been word of mouth and social media for me.
Isn't that funny how that works? I'm a big proponent. Thank you for sharing all of that. I'm a big proponent of the free to fee side of things too, right? And that's something I feel like is talked about in the industry a little bit of that, like you said, find if there's an industry that you want to work in or people you want to work with, right? Like more often than not, people aren't going to say no to a free video because they can find some, even if it's not great, they can still find some general use for it, right? As a business, so that's I've found that to be the case too, where I've pitched people, especially getting into like either real estate or vacation rentals. I've done that on a big side of my stuff right out of the gate of like, hey, like I just let me have an hour or two at your house. Let me come shoot it and see what I can provide for you and go from there, right? Type of thing. Or businesses that I've done that too, where I'm like, hey, let me just shoot you a free 30-second promo and just kind of see if I like shooting it and if you like shooting it, right? And
Yes,
kind of go from
exactly.
there.
If this is a good
Because
a team, and if it makes sense for us to work together, yeah, for
correct.
sure.
I'm always curious when you look at social media marketing as a whole because I feel like the more and more I do business, the more and more I'm really just a a well-paid content creator for everybody else but myself,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yeah.
um, I've had people recently. tell this to me when they're like, I had a client yesterday that I love working with, and I reached out and I was like, hey, like it's been a couple months. We should probably start thinking about doing some stuff again. Where are you at? Whatever. Um, and I found that maybe this is it felt like it was a bad strike against me because they're like, "Oh, we don't want the big fancy content right now." And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "When did I graduate to the big fancy content?" I'm like, and my favorite is I'm like, I can it's always funny to say, I'm like, I can shoot cheaper content, right? Like I don't have to pull out my fancy big camera. I have smaller cameras, or I'm happy to show up with my phone and shoot some stuff too, right? Like, I think sometimes because of the nature of what you and I do, and maybe you've had this happen too, people are like, "Oh, well, you have big fancy cameras, so if I'm not ready to spend one, two, three, four, $10,000 on you, um, I shouldn't call you."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that happens.
I don't. Has that happened to you before? Because I feel like that's happened to me a couple times where people are like, "Oh, like we know that you," and maybe you have a better strategy to counteract that response when you get it. And I try to educate people as best I can when I've received those messages, but I'm like, okay, like you're sometimes it feel like I'm being punished
Yeah,
because I do good work,
yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah. I
wait a
think those
second, what do you want
companies
from me?
are just not ready. They're not ready to go that route for whatever reason, and so maybe we can help them get ready, like, mentally, right?
Yes.
They're not in the mindset of where the business needs to go, and where it could go. Maybe they don't have a growth mindset. I don't know, but I think that's what it could be, or like budget, right?
Yeah,
You can
it's
work with a
99%
budget.
of the time
Yeah.
correct.
So maybe it is. You're
And that's
right.
what I
It
end
is
up telling
educating.
people. Yeah. I've found that too. I try to educate as best as I can, and I try to say, "Hey, listen, like, we don't have to do a 4-hour shoot like we did last time that cost $3,000. Like, we can do a 1-hour shoot or a 2-hour shoot,
Uh-huh.
and I can do a much more tailored, small." I'm like, "How many deliverables did you get from the big shoot? We don't have to do all of that. We can do a quarter of that,
Yes.
and you can still maintain that quality across the board."
Totally. I had actually had a client who didn't need me monthly because they had
Mhm.
something already in place, but they wanted to do bigger things like a podcast, and they wanted to have somebody on that they interviewed so they can educate their viewership and their clients.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what we figured out. We're like, okay, you don't need this monthly content, but you do need this. And this is really important too. That internally they can't do for like
Mhm.
social or for promoting or for marketing. And so we were able to figure out what that happy medium was.
You hit it on the head for a second there about something I wanted to talk about. You said monthly content, right? We know it as the big scary R word, retainers.
Yeah.
Um, how many do you consistently have, and is that something you're actively going after?
Yeah. I think more and more because videography and video marketing is all social media, right? It is also YouTube, but I mean, I guess that's social media too. It is website, that sort of thing, but it is
Yep.
a lot of it is on social media. That's how you buy stuff. That's how you sell your product or your service. So I feel like it's becoming more and more of a necessary thing that maybe as time goes on, I don't really need to sell because people are realizing that. But I think that's kind of headed that direction where retainers are the way to go, especially because, you want to have somebody like on your team who knows your business. And if you're doing it yourself and then you're picking one person and picking the next person, the next one, it may not all like it takes a while for at least a month or two to get to know who you are as a company, your brand voice and that sort of thing. So I think having a monthly retainer for consistency across
Mhm.
the board is so important for companies for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I feel like I've got a couple that I enjoy working with, but then I have some clients that I would consider retainers, but it's not I'll see you every month. It's I'll see you in 2 months, or I'll see you in 3 weeks, and then I'll see you in 5 months. I'm like, I'm your person, right? I'm your guy when you need something, but they're just not right. It doesn't make sense for whatever their business might be, right? To meet monthly or every couple weeks or whatever. So that's always kind of a funny, like, roundabout way when people are like, oh, like, how many retainers? I'm like, I think I have 3 or 4 right now that, like, every month, 100%, like, I'll see you there, we'll do the things, but I'm like, I've got another 4 to 8 that I know that I'm the first call when it's time, right, type of
Yes.
thing, and so it's like, "Oh, okay." It's kind of a funny balance, right, because
Yeah.
you sit down and you look at your budget every month and like, okay, how much money am I at minimum going to make, and what could I make if
Yes.
6 of these people all call me? And you're like, okay, wait a second, like, what
Yes.
is that?
I think
That's kind of a
retainers are
funny thing
good.
as business to do.
What do you think about retainers?
I like them as long as they are done in, I feel like, the right way. But what I mean by that is that there is good communication on both sides, right? Because I've been a part of retainer clients where it's been a 90-10. Like, I've shown up, I've tried to help with the planning, I've done all the things, and the client's like, "Oh, well, you just kind of help us put it together and figure it out. That's why we hired you."
Yeah.
I love that, but I hate that excuse from a company when they're like, "Well, we hired you for a reason, so you do you." I'm like, "This isn't my business." Like, I don't know what it's like to be a beauty salon. I don't know what it's like to be a real estate agent, whatever it is. If you don't educate me or you don't give me good communication on what your goals are, I can't do very good work for you,
Yeah.
and that's where you'll butt heads sometimes. But then it's the ones that do commute on a consistent basis that are like, these are our goals. We sometimes meet once a month just to kind of talk. And so I'm like, great. I need to bring more people with me to the next shoot because we're going to have a couple things happening. Oh, you needed models for that? Perfect. Let me call 3 of my models, whatever that is, right? Like, those are the ones that thrive more. So I appreciate the retainers from the financial side because the invoices hit on the first of the month and they're paid immediately. I'm like, oh, look, we've made money. I woke up on the first yesterday and I'm like, or 2 days ago, and I'm like, oh, look, 3 invoices got paid. I'm like, thank you very much.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're just like, okay, well, I don't want to feel like I'm tied or tethered to a bad client. So then you try to
Yeah.
say, thank you very much for the time. We're going to go a different direction, right?
Yes. Totally. Totally. I think it's great. It definitely has its positive aspects, as you like mentioned, about having
Hmm.
that consistent income. And then negative if the client is not as involved as you need them to be, because you do need them to be involved. As you said, it's their
Yeah.
business, so they need to, help educate you at least in the first couple months before you really get like a good grasp of who they are, what their brand voice is, and so on.
How much of a line do you draw with deliverables? I asked this to somebody a couple weeks ago because I had a client of mine that is a retainer that we have a set amount of deliverables for what I'm supposed to deliver on a monthly basis. We had our first big content day shoot, and at the end of the shoot I was kind of just reiterating with the client like, "Hey, like, just want to make sure, like, deliverable wise, like, here's what we're trying to get today, here's what we'll give back to you, right?" type of thing, just make sure we're all on the same page. Um, and they were asking for about 20 to 30 more things, like, as far as like content clips. It's a lot of short clips, right? So like, we were shooting social media videos, testimonial videos, and some photos. And they were like, great, like, we're supposed to deliver 10 short form, like 10 short reels and at least 25 to 50 photos minimum a month. And I'm like, great, that's really straightforward. Nice little rotation for them. And then with these 2 testimonial videos, they were like, okay, so we'd love another, like, 20 to 30 clips pulled from the testimonial videos that we can use as like short little pieces. I'm like, hmm. In the moment, because I had other people around me, I said, yep, sounds good, and walked away. But I've still thought about that a couple times where I'm like, am I being taken advantage of? And if I am, how much production do I put into that to deliver, but also not make it feel like I'm losing a ton of time and money either by like, yep, that's fine. If you think you want to do this, I can kind of give you the, not that I don't want to deliver good work, but you know what I'm saying, right? You want to deliver that, like, yep, like, you're not paying me this extra amount of money to do these other things. So I'm going to kind of give you a nice baseline to maintain quality, but I'm not going to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense. Yeah, I think just hearing that scenario, if they wanted more than what you already negotiated as deliverables, I would say, yeah, that would be considered an extra add-on, and these are my rates for that, I think something like that. I mean, I don't know, sometimes can be uncomfortable, or to ask for more money, but I think it's fair. I mean, you're putting in time, and
Yeah.
and your time is super valuable. So,
How do you feel about asking for money?
it's hard. I mean, I'm confident behind what I can deliver, and my type of
Yep.
work, but sometimes you kinda have to get out of your own way, right? You have to, like the books that I read tell me that you can't set these expectations for these people. You can't, like, make up in your mind what they can afford and what they can't afford, or what you think they think is too expensive. Like, as soon as you put those roadblocks, then you limit yourself, right? Because at the
Yeah.
second that you ask for what you are worth or what you need, like, I think that more times than not, they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's totally fine. Let's make this happen," and you kind of get in your own way, like, or I have it, so it's part of a process of being a business owner and, being a kind of a salesperson that you need to be because you
Yeah.
need to advocate and sell yourself, without selling yourself, right? And so, yeah, it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that as well. I do feel like the more and more I've done this, that was the one conversation I hated in the beginning, right? When I started working in business, was that like, oh, so what's this going to cost me? And I'm like, well, and you just kind of like dance around
Nothing.
it. But now I'm like, no, like, yeah, right. Like, what do you think is fair? Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, or whatever. You like dramatically undersell yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because you're like, great, $200 right now would just be great. I don't care if this is $1,000, 10, whatever. Like, just anything you want to give me right now would be great.
And
So
then you go
I've
through
learned
the
to get
process, and then you learn that it's
yes,
like, "Oh, okay, that's, like, too much of my time. I can't do that anymore."
correct, and it's a little trial by fire, right? Like, I found that forget if it was a podcast or a book that I had read at one point recently that was talking about that in the sense of, like, if you offer your pricing every time and the client always says yes immediately with 0 pushback, it might be time to bump your prices a little bit, right? Like, it's not that you want your client to always be like, "No, that's too expensive," but, like, if you can make an extra one, two, three, four, $500 on a deal, like see or I've started to play the range game. I don't know if you play this or not. So when a client will reach out and be like, "Hey, like, what would a 3 minute about us video cost?"
Yeah.
And I can say, "Well, I'm like I've done that between $2,000 and
Yeah.
$5,000 in the past, right? Like,
Yeah.
can you give me a little bit more detail about what you're looking?" But you've
Yeah.
at least set a general
Yes.
ballpark, so
That's
that helps.
yeah, that I feel like that's the only way to go when a client needs to know what they're getting into, because you can't
Correct.
give them an exact number because you don't know what they're gonna need or what they want. And I
Yep.
think as soon as you figure that out and yeah, figure out those details, you can give them a better quote.
Yeah. And the hope too, right, is if they say, "Oh, wow, okay, 5,000, geez, well, we don't need something that expensive. We were hoping to not spend more than $3,200." You're like, "Great, I know your number, and now I know
Yes.
what I can hopefully provide to you with that," right?
Yes.
Like, okay, that's a day and a half shoot. That's not a 2-day shoot, or that's 2 models instead of 4, whatever it is, right? Like, however the math is that you gotta do to get to that point, right?
Yes, totally.
So,
Yeah, I feel
fun,
like
fun.
it's important to know what their budget is. It helps
Yes. Oh, you have to.
yeah.
Yes, 100%. I'm really curious. Your style on at least social media is very clean, and very elegant, I would say. I don't know. Elegant might be, I think people's brains can go in a couple ways when I say elegant, but clean, very crisp, very light
Yeah.
might be another word for
Yes.
it too, right?
Yeah.
Where did that style come from?
Yeah. I think it was just like a personal style. Like that carries into like my personal life, like my home decor, my sense
It's
of
like I
like
can see behind you.
yeah,
Yeah.
my sense of style, like
Yeah.
it's something that I love and I'm so visually attracted to. And so I want to create content that inspires me, and hopefully that other people and businesses see it and they're inspired as well and they want that. And so I think it's just being true
Yes.
to who I am and what I love and creating content that represents that. So and also I feel like when I did the rebrand, like all those words that you just said is exactly what my rebrand is about. So I feel like
Hmm.
I'm doing something right if you see that as well. You know what I mean? Like if you see those like
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
fresh, airy, clean, because those are part of like my brand words, when it comes to my
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
I think that's great. I want to ask about the rebrand as well. I know you kind of talked about it briefly, but switching from a business that has your name in it to something that doesn't say your name at all. So I'm curious where Ola came from, but also why move away from your name as opposed to just a more generic, for lack of a better word, right? Like name of a company.
Yeah. I went from Mina George Films to Ola Media House because I felt my business was growing. And I knew that my team was going to expand and grow as well. And I didn't want to give people the impression that it was always going to be me, although I will be there 100%, like 100% of the, or a lot of the time, not 100%, but a lot of the time.
99.9% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Even if I'm just on set, right?
Hmm.
But I also am growing the team, so I didn't want to give the pressure that I'm going to be there filming, that my team will be there filming. And so I
Mm.
think taking the name away helps with that. And then having Ola Media House kind of gives it. a different kind of vibe and feel, and more in the direction that I wanted to go to grow as a business. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
Yep, I think so. What is did you talk about where Ola comes from
Oh,
though?
not yet. And so
Yeah.
when rebranding, at first I didn't think I was going to change the name. I just wanted to give like my company a refresh. But I soon decided that I needed to change the name. And so I was going through like a transition period in like my personal life. And so I felt like this was like the perfect time to do the rebranding and all that great stuff. So Ola came, so I wanted a name that like represented like who I was, my culture, my Hispanic background, my heritage. And then
Mm.
also I wanted to be really short and sweet and nothing like I don't know, too complicated, even though Ola can be complicated. But so Ola means wave in Spanish, like the actual waves in the ocean. And so that's kind of my that like the trip my so and I also am like a total ocean water person. I mean, to the core. Um,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to combine those 2 things somehow. That was something like representative of who I was, but also carried into my business and like branding and what I love. Like, again, if you come into my house, you'll see a lot of like ocean inspired like artwork and photography that I've taken. A lot of like that feel when you walk in, light, bright, like that sort of thing. And so that kind of like trend is basically it's an extension of who I am. I feel like
Mhm.
the name is an extension of that.
That's beautiful. I love that. I don't know if I knew that even from our initial conversation. So I love that story behind that. And it's I I would agree with that. I look at your brand a lot and it reminds me a lot of growing up in Florida. Just a lot of the stuff that I would see, just the way the colors, you talk about the water, right? All of that I feel like is very, very similar in semblance to being down on the Gulf side where I grew up down
Yes,
in Naples. So
yeah. And I was born and
kind
raised
of unique how that works.
yeah, and I was born and raised in California. I was always either in Santa Cruz or San Diego, like near the water somewhere. And
Yeah.
then when I moved here, we're like by Lake Michigan, and we spend so much time at the water as much as we possibly can, like my family and I. And so growing up and now, and so it just made sense for it to be part of my my business as well.
I love that. Well, speaking of your business, you have a second, I would say, arm of your business, right? Or of Mina as a whole, and that's Studio North.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about what that is for those that don't know.
Yeah, so Studio North is a photography studio where we rent it out to other creatives and photographers, either an hourly basis, 2 hours, 5 hours, a whole day, half day, however, whatever amount of time that you need. So photographers can go to this again, this beautiful. It's like white, airy, clean
Stunning.
space. Yeah, that where you can bring your clients and take pictures. Um, and so it started off as a place where so I have a business partner and it started off as a place where we needed to like I needed a place to film. She needed a place to take photos of her business items as well. She was selling a Stonehouse collective. So she was selling items and that sort of thing. And so we were like, okay, let's, go in on this together and we can both, split everything and we can have the best of both worlds. And then quickly after that first meeting, we're like, oh, we can make this into a viable business. And so we
Yeah,
just got together, put everything that we needed to do in place to get this up and running. And it's been a success, I would say. I think it was something that people needed in this area and maybe even with that type of vibe that we have. And so
correct.
it's been so nice to have and it's such a beautiful space to offer to other people and then to use for myself as well.
100%. I can attest firsthand. I used it for the first time in December, and I will be there tomorrow again as well. So I'm excited to use the space. But like that space that you mentioned, I've got a couple studios that I've been able to do stuff in and work around, and just the different look and vibe that your studio provides is such a unique aspect that I think is kind of lost sometimes, right? I feel like people love their cream city brick, or they love their darker backgrounds or any of that stuff, which is great and all has their times and place. But the white, the clean, the light, the vibrant, that kind of style that is Mina and is Ola, right, is now also in the studio as well, which I think is beautiful. And I think it just offers a fun canvas for people to come in, whether it's photo or video content. When I was there, that's what I took, and
Yeah.
It provides. I didn't feel like I was at a loss of like, oh, I can't do what I want to do today because I don't have the right space for it. I felt like no matter where I looked in the studio, it was a new scene, a new spot every time that I could do something different in, which worked great. And the client loved that flexibility as well.
Yeah. Oh my god, that makes me so happy to hear because that was part of the goal when we were setting it up. When you walk into the place, it's we kind of divide it into like 4 quadrants where you can do something different in each quadrant. And actually recently, we just updated it, like, I would say 3 weeks ago. So when you go in
Yeah, I
tomorrow,
saw that.
I feel like it's just gonna blow your mind. It's so beautiful. I mean, we just added, like, furniture and some other things, but
Yeah,
we changed it around just enough, but it's still so functional, and just upgraded a lot of the furniture that we had. So it's yeah, I think it just make it'll I think it'll make for better photography, better scenes in different areas. So you can actually
sure.
use one scene, and feel like you're in a different place, but still that same it's all
Mm,
cohesive. So if you took a picture, in where the living room setting is, and then went over to like the bedroom or just a white wall, it all feels very cohesive.
I love that. Okay, that's fun. I'm excited to see the new changes. I've seen little snippets that you've posted, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm excited to see how I can utilize it now for what I'm doing tomorrow. So certainly should be a lot of fun. One of the last questions that I always love to ask my guests before we close things up today, Mina, is when you're not doing what you do on a daily basis for your business and for your work, how do you take care of yourself?
Ooh. Well, I think that depending on the season, I love to be outdoors. It's kind of hard to be outdoors now because, it's quite cold.
Cold,
Got to force,
a little cold.
yeah. But I think it's like a lot of spending time with people that I love that are close to me, and being outdoors. Like that's what I love to do. As far as self care goes, I think there's always room for improvement, and that's something that I got
Mhm.
to do. But being with friends, being with family, spending time with my kids, and then just being active somehow. Being outdoors is kind of like how I like to spend my time outside of work.
I love that. No, I think that that's great, and I think that I always love asking the question because of the fact that there are so many different answers to that, and I'm always curious to see how those answers change over time as well, because some people are like, "Oh, I love this," or "I love that," or whatever it might be. So I appreciate you sharing with that. Last thing we're gonna do before I let you go is I always love to play a game with my video or photo friends because it helps people learn a little bit more about you in a
Yeah.
quick, rapid fire way, and kind of go from there. So we're going to play a really quick videographer this or that. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll go, we've got 10 fast questions we'll roll through, and you can kind of give me your fast, quick answer as we go along. Okay. All right. First one is for camera gear. Would you rather use a prime lens or a zoom lens to shoot your content?
Zoom.
Zoom. Why is that?
I feel like it just gives me more like mobility, and also like I'm used to that. I haven't really gotten the prime side, so and I have like almost all Zoom, so that's what I'm used to. So that's kind of what I would say.
Okay. I like it. I'm a prime. I have both, but if I have a choice, I would take the prime personally. So just me. Shooting style. Are you a handheld or a gimbal type of person?
Ooh, I'm a gimbal for sure. Although I do like going a handheld with the right type of client and style, if it's like their style. But like the
Correct.
Zoom, I mean, but gimbal is what I use.
Yeah, I'm a big, I would say like 90-10 or 80-20 gimbal to handheld personally. Video types, would you rather shoot a fun social media video or a wedding film?
Fun social media video.
Ooh, okay,
Well,
okay.
what one I feel like well, the wedding film is, like, super long, right? It'll be a whole day,
Yeah,
but, like, I feel like social media, you can get super creative, you can create these beautiful scenes, and I feel like there's, like, fast storytells are kinda cool. I like
yep.
that too.
I love that. What is your go-to editing program?
Yeah, okay, so Premiere Pro, um, is my
Yep.
go-to. I know that so many people are on DaVinci, and, like, I need to get
No,
on that right now. No, you're
you're good. Stay where you're at. Stay where you're at. I'm a Premiere person too.
yeah, and I know it. I know it like the back of my
Yeah.
hand. I'm fast, and so
Hmm.
but I know that a lot of people are moving towards DaVinci and, are editing on that, and so it's like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. I think I know this answer, and I think everybody could guess this answer for you. Lighting, would you prefer natural light or studio light?
Natural light.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I would be shocked if you said studio
Yeah,
light. I'd be like,
natural
that's just that doesn't compute.
I know, I feel like can work so well. I have so much experience working with natural light. I know how to work with it. I know what to do to improve it. I know how to work with it with my camera. It makes sense for me. But I do obviously have studio light, and also know and love and know the importance of it as well.
Absolutely. Yep. And I can agree with you on that one. When it comes to audio, would you rather a camera mounted, microphone mounted on your camera, or a lavalier on the person that is doing the
Yeah, I
talking?
do the lavalier. I have probably should move to boom mics at some point for certain types of interviews. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Um, but I do. I'm a lot. I work with a lot of lavaliers. So, I mean, it's again, it's what I know, and I know how to work with it. So that's kind of where I am right now with that.
Do you find boom miking intimidating?
Yeah,
Because I do a little
I
bit.
don't do it actually. I use a boom mic, I'm not the one who's working it. It's I have like a team that's working together, and
You've
they have
brought a grip
it's
in
their
for it. Yeah.
expertise. Yeah, exactly, grip. It's and so I just kind of leave it up to them.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. I know I've got my eyes on a couple boom mics, and I'm like, I think this would be good, but I'm like,
I
just it
know.
hasn't made sense for what I need to do yet.
Yes, exactly. Same here.
I'm
It hasn't
sure.
made sense for me.
I'm sure at one point it will. Um, for a like, if you had to do a fun, like, if you could design the setup essentially for a challenge, would you rather do a one take shot where you like have everything happen in one camera take, or multiple camera setups to cut to tell the story exactly how you want it to happen?
Yeah, this the latter. Multiple camera
Latter.
shots to tell a story. How
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Have you tried to tackle the one take shots at all?
No, but I've actually recently was studying a video that was done in that way, and I thought it was really cool. I was studying it because I have a client that I think that would work well for, and so I was like,
Hmm.
I was learning and seeing how like camera angles and that sort of thing, how it would work,
Mhm.
planning it out. But I think it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I've done a couple of them for clients, and it's a unique. It takes a lot of the prep work, right? Is 99% of the time, and it's 20 minutes to plan and a 30-second shot, right? It's kind of or
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? Like it's so much more on the front end than it
Yes.
is the actual like and action. Here we go, and we're done. Great, but it's like 77 things had to happen right in that little
Yeah.
span of time.
Yeah. That's
So
true. That's true. I mean, that sounds pretty fun and efficient too to do it that way, actually, instead of taking.
because if you get it, it's great, right? You're just like, wow, perfect.
Yes.
I've done that for a few vacation rentals where it's like we want to show as much as we can in 30 seconds. So just kind of go up and down or start upstairs and come downstairs to the kitchen. There's
Yeah.
somebody making coffee, reading a book over on the couch, whatever, right? You just kind of do, 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 do.
Ooh,
So
I
it
like
takes a little bit of time and planning.
I think that's cool. I like the idea.
Something to think about. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Last question for you. When it comes to coloring, you talked about it in Premiere a little bit. Would you prefer the natural color look, or would you prefer to have the S log and then throw some LUTs on and then do some fun, more editing that way?
Ooh, so what I normally do is, I will have so I have my camera set to like the what's it called that I like, and then I adjust. So it's a process. So I adjust so I try to shoot out of camera as perfect as possible, the way I like it, right? So that way there's
Mm.
less
So
editing.
you shoot in standard color, as it were. You're not shooting with any like S log or anything like that.
No, I'm not actually exactly. So I'm not shooting an S-Log.
Okay.
And so with like I can't think of the word right now for the types of like different presets that they have. I don't even know if that's the right word. Anyway, so I shoot, and then I shoot out of camera as best. I mean, so it looks great, and then I go in, make the adjustments, and then if I need to add a LUT on top of it, I'll do that as well.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I go back and forth on this all the time. I think it all
Yes.
depends if the client wants footage, because sometimes you get those clients that are like, okay, well, we'd also like to have the footage as well, or if it's a part of the agreement, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to give you color footage. I'm not going to give you grayed out S-Log 3 footage, right? Because I shoot Sony. I know you shoot Sony as well, so like that, can make a difference. But I do love the vibrance when you nail an S-Log 3 shot personally, because then
Yeah.
you throw the right LUT on, and all of a sudden it feels like the picture explodes in
Yes.
color, and you're like, oh wow, okay, like
Yes.
that was even better than I thought it was going to be.
Yes. I think that.
But time and a place for that.
Yes, and I think it's wonderful. I know, several people who shoot and edit in color that way, and I love their work. I'm like, "Please sit with me and show me your ways because it's
Yeah.
beautiful."
I found that I found for what's the word I'm looking for concerts, for events. I will shoot only in S-Log3 because you've got, the multiple colored lights flying through from on top of the stage. Sometimes the musicians have got really fun patterns on, like it just. And if you need to get crowd shots too, you don't have to crank up your ISO because you've got if you have a camera that has the dual base ISO, you can get away with having, 3200 or higher
Yeah.
sometimes, and you can not feel like you're going to get a ton of digital noise. So
Yeah.
I've found that to be a go-to for me, at least in that. And then a kind of case by case basis, depending on what I'm shooting from there.
Yeah.
So just depends.
That makes sense.
Mina, if people want to get a hold of you and learn more about you and what Ola Media House is, how can they do that?
Well, they can find me on my website at olamediahouse.com or on Instagram, which is also Ola Media House. Where else? I think I'm on Facebook as well, but I would say those two ways are the number one ways. And then my email address, you can email me directly if you wanted to at mina@olamediahouse.com.
I love that. Okay. Well, Mina, thank you so very much for taking the time today. I could talk to you all day. I love our conversations, and thank you for sharing your story and your knowledge with us today.
Always. Thank you so much for having me. I love our conversations as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. I always look forward to them. A big thank you to you, the listener, for tuning in today as well. Remember, this show comes out on Mondays for you. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me at Baxter Colburn and at Colburn Creative Co. on social media. And I look forward to having you join us on the next episode. We'll see you next week for another episode of Iconic Creators. Have a great day.
Hey, it's Amy Brown from The Bobby Bone Show. Join me in supporting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital for a chance to win a trip to meet Megan Maroney at the 2025 iHeart Country Festival in Austin, Texas on May 3rd, hosted by Bobby Bones. We're going to hook you up with tickets, flights, hotel, food credits, and a meet and greet with Megan Maroney. Take action now to support St. Jude and help cure childhood cancer, and you're going to be entered for a chance to win. Visit iHeartCountryTrip.com to learn more.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.